one day I'm walking in LA after all that, and I ran into my friend Sandy Gennaro, drummer. I said, "Hey, Sandy, how you doing?" And he said, "Good." I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I just auditioned for Rod. I didn't make it. You should call him." I said, "Really? Who'd you call?" So he showed me the guy's name, Pete Buckland. I said, "Oh, Pete, we did 30, 35 gigs with Faces and Cactus. We used to wreck hotel rooms and abuse women and did everything, wreck cars and did everything together." And Pete was at the helm of it all. So I said, "Oh, give me the number." So I called Pete and I said, "Hey, Pete, it's Carmine Appice. What's the deal? Rod's looking for a drummer. You don't call me?" And he says, "Oh, you're always busy." I said, "Well, I'm not busy now. I'd love to play with Rod." He goes, "Oh, let me call Rod. He's in England." So he called Rod, and Rod told him, "Have Carmine go to my house. The band is there. They're looking for a drummer. Have me check it out." So it was almost like, have Carmine check the band out, see if he likes it. I said, "Whoa, that's a switch." And I said, "I've known Rod now. I've known Rod since '68, and this is like almost 10 years later, And we did a lot of gigs together with Cactus and Faces and all."
Yeah.
So I went to the house. And I figured, well, I'm going to Rod Stewart, so I'm going to bring a good car. So I had a Pantera at the time, which is now in England. A guy bought it in England, and he's redoing this Pantera, totally restoring it for car shows.
Nice.
And since I had that car for 40 years, he's going to call it the Carmine Appice Pantera. And I'm going to tell him about all the people that rode in it, like Ozzy and Rod Stewart and Prince and all these different people,
wow.
Jeff Beck, Anyway, so I drove the Pantera to Rod's house. I pull up to these gigantic gates. I said, "Whoa, I didn't know Rod was this successful," And I pull in, and then I go in and I see Phil Chen. I go, "Hey, I didn't know you were in the band." And I meet Jim Cregan. He was in the band. I met him in England. And so we had a play. It sounded good. And also, I had to have this in my head as soon as I went in there. I saw the mansion. I saw, Porsches and Lamborghinis and all these cars. And I said, "I want to play here. I want to play with this band." And we went in and had a play, and it was good, kick-ass, like Cactus kind of rock and roll, So 2 days later, Rod comes back, and I go back up there, and we have a play with Rod. And then Rod just come up and said, "Look, the gig's yours if you want it." I said, "Play like you did in Cactus. I'll give you a solo every night. I know you have fans, and I know when I come back, the fans will be rocking after your solo, and I'll use that to go freshen up again, I said, "Fine." And that's it.
Phenomenal stuff. And what I like about this is the fact that you weren't just a drummer. I mean, you've never been just a drummer. Your vocals in there as well, but you helped to write songs as well, didn't you? And we're talking some of Rod Stewart's biggest ever songs.
I mean, by chance, I co-wrote "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" It was like, Rod was a really fair, good dude. I love Rod. I just saw him a month ago down here and in Florida. And, I went to his party, his 70th birthday party. And I love Rod. He's a good guy. He wrote the intro to my book, Stick It, My Life of Sex, Drums, and Rock and Roll, which you can get on Music Sales in England. But, he's always been good to me. And, I tried to do the same with him. When I worked with him, I did background vocals. I arranged the background vocals and stuff. And then one day he came up to everybody and said, "I want a song like Missing You. So whoever can give me a song like Missing You, you got it." I said, "All right." So I went home. I have a keyboard. And I was playing these changes and drum machine. Then I went to my buddy Dwayne Hitchings' house, who had an 8-track studio, TX studio with drum machines and the whole. So he made it sound good, and then he added a little bit for the bridge, So we gave it to Rod, and we won. We got it, and we went in the studio. And the great thing about Sexy is when we went in the studio and cut it, we had 3 guitars, bass, drums, and Dwayne on keyboard, and Rod vocals.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And it was pretty rock heavy,
Yeah.
It wasn't disco-y. Even though I had that 4 in the bass drum, that was the idea. That's what, let's show the Missing You, And then Tom Dowd grabbed a hold of it. He put Tom Scott on it, put David Foster on it, put an orchestra on it, put Linda Lewis, Jim Cregan's now his ex-wife. singing the high part, in an octave, 2 octaves up, and all kinds of stuff, conga players. And so all of a sudden we're on 2 24 tracks instead of one. So the sound shrunk. So when it was done, it sounded like the way it sounded. And we were all like, wow, it sounds a bit wimpy, But Tom said, trust me. Came out, went to #1 in 10 countries. So I guess he was right.
Yeah, well, that's one way of looking at it. I mean, so what was it like working with Rod then? I mean, obviously on the road, the stories are pretty famous and legendary, but what was it like being in the studio writing songs and stuff with him?
Well, the band always came up with music most of the time, and Rod wrote the lyrics and the melodies all the time. And sometimes he had songs that he wrote, like "You're in My Heart," and but one of the songs that was kind of crazy for me was "Hot Legs," because the drums were such a feature on "Hot Legs" that people would come up to me and say, "Did you write Hot Legs?" And I said, "No, I didn't. I just played drums on it." Because the drums were such a feature, and the whole feel of the song came from the drums, it sounds like, Even though I know it didn't, but once I played it with Andy John's drum sound, it became a dominant part of the song. The drums were as loud as the vocal, But, it was just we'd come up with ideas at rehearsal, put them together, and whoever came up with the idea got the songwriting with Rod. Rod always did the melody and the lyrics, and he always had great lyrics and great. Every song were like sayings. You think I'm sexy? You're in my heart. Hot legs. Passion. Every picture tells a story. I mean, they're sayings that everyday sayings that people. That's what made him so great, and relatable by the audience, because everything he sung about, people have said.
Yeah. And talk to me about him as a frontman as well, as a singer, as a stage presence.
He was the best frontman singer in those days, period. There was nobody could match him. Even my mother loved him. And she was 60 years old, The way he used to run all over the stage with the scarves and, sing to the audience, it was like all that, I learned a lot from Rod, actually, in songwriting and stage presence a bit, and learning how to work an audience from him. He's awesome.
Awesome,
and he's still great.
Yeah.
Now he slowed down. I mean, come on, he's 78 years old, whatever it is. I feel my speed on the drum slowing down, and my pizzazz, all that stuff. I had 2 shoulder surgeries. I mean, but it's just you created something when we were young, him and myself, and it's carried through our career.